Okay, so hi. Okay, you guys, Intimacy 101. I want to just dive right in here. If you are watching with us today, I would love for you to put in the comments where you're watching from and say hello so that we know that you're out there. And, this will be a little bit interactive, not too interactive, but I love to know who am I talking to? Who is here live with me? So, and I can speak to your heart and what you're doing and your own inner wisdom on all things intimacy. As an intimacy coach and CEO and owner of my own business, I really, really believe that the answers already lie within us. I was just speaking with a friend earlier today, and there's some scriptures even that say, like, there's a well of living water already within us, and it's up to us to like tap into it. How amazing is that? And I see that all the time in women out influencing in the world, women in their marriages, women igniting their truth from within. The answers are already within you when it comes to intimacy. They are. But sometimes we need help. We need help to access that truth within us. Does that land? Does that make sense, you guys? Sometimes we need help to access that truth within us. And, women everywhere today, I think, are waking up all over the globe, feeling this calling to step more fully into their truth, into their power, to really understand what it means to be a woman. And I see this all over the place. And some of the effects I see women taking this to like crazy, maybe even harmful extremes. I see and then I see some really beautiful things coming out of it. And then I see a lot of women just like doing whatever they can to ignore the call, right? But truly, when a woman operates from her truth, when we truly, truly operate from our truth, it doesn't matter what our circumstances are. We are free. And we create deep, fulfilling intimacy and abundance no matter what. When we really step into the truth of who we are, we really get to know each other. We start with intimacy with ourselves first. In that truth, a woman becomes like a receiving vessel, like a magnet, attracting all the things that she wants and needs. Have you seen that? Have you seen that in your own life? Do you know somebody who experiences that, who seems to just magnetize all that they want and need? I'd love to hear in the comments from you guys. And how long as women have we denied or been denied what we want and what we need? Through myriad ways, right? Like, I'm bad and wrong. I shouldn't want those things. Maybe I can't trust my desires, all that kind of stuff. But also in the sense that, things, resources and things like that have not actually been available to women, right? And now we live in a totally different paradigm. I'm just trying to bring up these comments here on my phone. But we live in a totally different paradigm where we really can go after whatever we want. And our needs matter. And yet I find all the time in relationships, women still denying what they want, denying what they need. And it's interesting. It's an interesting paradigm. I mean, I can be working with the most powerful businesswoman who's called in multiple seven figures in her businesses. She's created empires, and in her relationships, she's still holding herself back. Isn't that interesting? And I think that the number one problem we run into, so I want to speak to you today about roadblocks that prevent us from experiencing the intimacy that we want. I want to talk to you about the ideal, what is really possible for us when it comes to intimacy. And then I'm going to give you some tools that will help you get started on this path when it comes to experiencing your fullest expression and experience of intimacy. So the number one thing that I see is that women they recognize I can't change my husband. And so then they just start to compromise and settle for less. And I think even if you've worked on this a lot, I want you to ask yourself right now, is it possible that there is still something I am wanting my husband to change for me? Is there still something there underlying? Or maybe there's like a whole list of things, right? I want you to ask yourself that right now. We think our experience of intimacy is totally dependent on our husband and what he does or doesn't do, and it's wrong, right? And if you've done some inner work, you've done some spiritual work, you probably know that. And it's like, I've worked on this. But can you honestly say at the deepest core level, you are not still trying to change him? Now, maybe he genuinely needs to change, right? Like, there are some men out there who are not really like showing up in the relationship, right? In lots of different ways. But here's the next question I want you to ask yourself. When you approach him from that place of wanting him to change, can you honestly say you're still in your truth when you do that? Are you doing that from your truth? So maybe you're like, oh, I actually don't even know what my truth feels like. I don't even really know what you mean when you say that. Or maybe you do, you know, maybe you've been in this rodeo a little while and you've gotten to know who you really are. And so I want you to ask yourself these things. If you don't know who you really are, then I can guarantee that is impacting your intimacy. If you do, and you find yourself stepping out of integrity, out of alignment with who you really are in order to try to change or get him to whatever, then that you could see how that would affect your ability to feel really deeply close, totally yoked, totally unified, soul connected. It's going to affect it, right? So our number one roadblock here, you guys, is we're still wanting him to change, right? Okay. Is this landing? Is this resonating? I want to hear from you. I'm just looking at these comments here. Okay, great. So, yeah, again, if you're just popping in, I would love for you to put in the comments where you're watching from. Say hello, let us know. I love to know who's here and who's watching. And it's great. And I did get a few questions that came in as I was preparing for this that I will address very specifically at the end. But everything that I am saying, if you submitted a question, whether you're watching this live or watching this on replay, everything I'm saying is absolutely applicable, right, to what your situation is. Okay, so intimacy ideals. I think this is so important, and I talk about this in almost every live that I do, because I think that this old adage is true. We don't know what we don't know. So how can we go after something if we don't even know it exists, right? That was definitely the case in my marriage. My husband and I, to just be vulnerable with you and share a little bit about what we've been through. We were married for about 6 years. My husband confessed something to me that I didn't know that existed in our marriage for that whole entire time. It was a huge bomb to me, absolutely devastating, lots of feelings of betrayal. I was even diagnosed with PTSD. And I was so devastated because I wanted my marriage to work above all else. In my book, it's God and then my husband and then anything else. Like, that is just the way that that it feels most in alignment for me. And so working really hard on our marriage was always a top priority for me. I mean, the way I went about it now, hindsight, I'm like, oh, I can see why that wasn't the best approach. but I wanted our marriage to work so much. And And then when everything, really hit the fan, it really caused me to take some steps back and look at how I was living my life and what I really wanted, and did I really want this marriage? And my husband was doing the same thing at the same time. And in the meanwhile, we had already had 3 children. And so it was like, and then there's these 3 children that are like super important, and we want them to have the best life. And how do we move forward from this devastation? And we made the decision to fight and to make it work and to move forward, best that we could, best that we knew how. And it was hard. And on the other side, we found a deep connection that we both did not even know existed. We didn't know what we didn't know. Okay, we just didn't know. And we found ourselves going, oh, we've never seen connection like this. We never knew marriage could feel like this. This was worth it. It was worth all the effort in the end. It was. And it is. So what are the intimacy ideals? 3 ideals. One is sensuality. Okay, this is a piece, it's such an important piece of intimacy. It's really being embodied in your senses, being alive and present to your senses and to your sensations, and alive to your pleasure, allowing yourself to follow your pleasure. And I'm not just talking about sex, I'm talking about sex in every other aspect of life. It's also about reclaiming your sensuality, not feeling shame about the fact that God made you as a sensual being. That's how you were made. So how could it be wrong, right? But connecting with that and feeling okay with that, and feeling like you can approach another human being, your partner, your soulmate, and unabashedly say, like, here I am. Okay, sensuality, true sensuality. So important, so, so beautiful. And anything you've been through, it is possible to heal this piece. I think that this is one of the biggest barriers that we hit, just due to the nature of the world that we live in. Sensuality, we can get really hurt. We can have lots of trauma around this. But no matter what you've been through, you can heal. You can reclaim your sensuality. You can feel so free and good in that. The second intimacy ideal or pillar of intimacy is your feminine identity. I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but it's accessing all parts of ourselves, being that full woman. Who are you? Claim her, discover her, pursue her. She is worthy. She is wonderful. And when we are in that space, like I said at the beginning, we're unstoppable. We have so much power, and it doesn't look like typical power. It's soft, it's beautiful, it's still, it's in our beingness, we're in our intuition, we're in our knowing, we're in our gifts, and it's so amazing. Calling in intimacy, calling in abundance, calling in our heart's desires. Okay, so first one is sensuality, true sensuality. Second one is our true feminine identity, and then the third one is true intimacy. What is true intimacy? It's that closeness. It's that total transparency where the two of you become one, where it feels like you're making love all day with each other's spirits because you're that connected and close and yoked and unified. And it's beautiful. Okay. Does this all land? I want to hear from you. My phone just died, so let me pull up comments again. I want to hear, is this landing? Is this resonating? Okay, here we go. Can see a couple of comments here. I don't want it to start playing myself because it will do that sometimes. Okay, so now I would like to offer you a tool, one powerful tool. Jackie says, oh, I want that intimacy back. Yeah, And that desire is beautiful. Okay. Whoops. Here I am. I
now
told you I was going to do this. I told you I was going to do it, didn't I? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's not me. Maybe it's just Facebook makes it complicated here. Okay. I want to offer you a tool before I answer a couple of these. Should I answer the questions first? Let me answer a couple of these questions first. I had a couple of different questions that came through. One woman asked, how do I make him want sex? How do I initiate sex without me having to ask? And how can I get more comfortable with initiating sex? I had a couple of different women that I was in conversation with about this over this week. And can you see how some of the things that I have just talked about would change your situation, right? When there's this unabashed ownership of your own sensuality, is everything. This is really more about you than it is about him. About you claiming you, owning you. Okay. Another one, okay, this was kind of a really specific situation, but she said, why do you think that my man is not able to be guilt-free from the effects of divorce for his kid? So his kid is, he's putting his kid as like this first priority above the relationship because the child came from a previous marriage and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, if I had a crystal ball, maybe I could consult the crystal ball, or I could ask your husband and find out why. But your fiance. But I think that maybe we're asking the wrong questions here, right? When I speak of this radical acceptance, or, you know, we're wanting him to change something, the bottom question for you is, can I accept this in him? And what does his attitude towards his son or toward his child say about him, about the kind of person he is, about the kind of things he values? What does it really say about him, and can I fully accept him in this? That's the biggest question, right? Is there any way that we can change the situation? I think so. I think it's pretty probable. When you are showing up fully in your truth, I think it's very likely that he is going to embrace the both of you. If he's the kind of person who wants to love on his son and wants to, you know, make his child feel like it's okay, and, you know, all of that, what that says to me is he has a pretty good heart. And is there some guilt involved? Is there some, yeah, I think so, but it shows that he's capable of loving really deeply. So I definitely think there's a lot of hope in that situation. Okay. I think those were the main questions that I had that came through. Yeah. So, so I hope that lands. You know, if you're here and you're watching and you want to, oh, good, Jackie. If you want to ask more questions, you can always private message me, or you can put your questions here in the comments. I'll answer as I go. But the last piece I want to say is this piece about letting go of that final need to change him. Okay. It's everything. It's so huge. And one way that we can deeply show and practice this place of surrender and release and full seeing and knowing and acceptance is through admiration and appreciation of our spouse. I've been talking about this a little bit in the group. We've had some discussions. I've had some very interesting discussions across the globe. People get really triggered when I say, you know, maybe the key is to appreciate your husband. People get so triggered, and I think our husbands are feeling the effects of that, right? Like they're very unappreciated. in every aspect because they represent the patriarchy. Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they had nothing to do with the patriarchy and they're just a human, just like you and me, trying to make it. Anybody who knows anything about spiritual paths knows that gratitude is the highest vibration that exists on the planet. It is the highest vibration that exists. So anything that is brought into that true space of gratitude is edified, is magnified, is uplifted. So I have a really cool tool. It's called 17 Ways to Admire and Appreciate Your Husband. And if you want that, I will send it to you. I wrote it all out in a PDF. And I like that. Appreciating and showing appreciation are two different things too. Very good point, right? Because it's also vulnerable to actually show that appreciation. What if it's not received well? What if they sort of like slough it off and then we are left feeling kind of vulnerable, or like maybe they didn't really like it, or maybe we went through this effort and now what, right? So there really is, this is a spiritual principle. This is not just me being like, women should appreciate their husbands. This is a higher law, you guys. So if you want this tool and you don't already have it, definitely just say appreciation tool in the comments. You can always send me a private message and we'll make sure we get you this this really fun PDF about appreciating and admiring your husband. And it is absolutely this step into full acceptance of him and letting go of the need to change who he is as a person. You know, I think if God created a plan, yay, hi Bobby, it's fun to see you on here. If God created a plan for all us human beings and he said, and this is my, you know, the way I align, the way I make sense of the world. So take it, this, use it however it most makes sense to you. But he said, I'm going to let them choose everything. I'm going to let them choose. Then we get married and we think we're going to play God and say, no. I know that my husband is supposed to be this certain way. Like, I know that's how he's supposed to be. And so I'm going to change him. I'm going to make him better. I'm going to make him be this thing. No, it doesn't work that way. And as a matter of fact, it ends up just being a mirror for us. Because underneath this, and you'll see this at the top of my tool, but I say, and you've heard me say this in this very training, underneath everything is about us being in our truth. But we're busy criticizing ourselves all the time too. So of course we're criticizing our spouse, right? And I don't care how spiritually evolved you are. We learn all these spiritual tools, right? And like coaching tools or whatever as we progress in our lives, as we progress in our relationships. And then we use those tools as beating sticks against ourselves when we don't measure up. It's like, wait a second, these are the tools that were supposed to help me and support me, not like be used to criticize me and put me down. We are so hard on ourselves, Brianne, exactly. So, okay, great, you guys. I hope that this has been helpful. You guys, intimacy is everything. To me, intimacy is going to be the air that we breathe soon, because we are all one. We are all connected. And our society, our world is shifting. And so if we have pieces inside of us that we're still holding back, and we're still holding and clinging onto our hurts and our pains and all that stuff, there's no space for that in this new move that we're shifting into as a people. There's just not space for that. And besides, who really wants that? Like, why do we cling to our pains and stuff so tightly? We can be free and we can experience true intimacy. So, thanks for watching, guys. Again, reach out to me. Again, if you're watching this on replay, definitely let me know in the comments if you want this little tool. Make sure you get it. We'll make sure one of our team members will send this out to you or me. And Let's go and step into our fullness with intimacy. Okay, take care, guys.